Hello, everyone. I'm here with Micha from a really innovative and cool company called NeuraLight. And Micha, first of all, you're sitting. Where are you right now? And just tell me about the company. Tell me about yourself, your background. We're very interested.
With pleasure. So I'm Micha. I'm now speaking from Austin, Texas. Uh, Started talking about myself just generally, my background, the
Yeah,
company.
yeah. Give us a little background.
Yeah, so formal background is a master's in math, algebraic topology, and then a PhD in cognitive sciences. I've been an entrepreneur most of my adult life, I guess, by now. Many, multiple failures, which you won't find on LinkedIn, and then some pretty amazing success stories. Most recently, we sold my previous company for around $600 million. It was a really, great outcome for investors, for us.
What was the company called?
Company was called Chorus AI. We did real-time transcription and extraction of insights for sales conversations, kind of selling, helping salespeople sell better. The goal there, or the mission, was to unlock the hidden dimensions that govern decision-making, voice conversations, in order to understand and enhance human communication. It was really nice success. And after we sold the company, kind of the next thing was, okay, so how do you make the world a slightly better place? Not that Course was anything bad. It was more than neutral than anything else, but kind of, was lucky enough, I'd been doing some angel investing, did, quite a bit of companies. And then I was introduced to my current co-founder as a potential investment advisorship, but very quickly it became clear to me that I did not want to invest in him. Rather, I'd much prefer to work with him. I'm not the best flirt ever, so it took me, a few weeks to convey the message, but ultimately he understood, and he asked me if I'd consider kind of the opportunity of maybe working a little closer with him. And I said, basically, shut the F up. You had me at a low, and we've been inseparable since. So it's been like a year and a half, a really great year and a half. We did, the company itself is building a platform for developing objective and sensitive biomarkers for neurological disorders. So today, neurology is somewhat of an art rather than a science. It's we all know someone who has suffered from depression, where you go into the psychiatrist, they ask you a bunch of questions such as, do you eat a lot? Do you sleep well? Do you have any suicidal thoughts? How's your libido, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? And then they come back and they say, okay, look, so we think you need to increase the dosage of the antidepressant, decrease it, change a med, whatever. It's all questions and answers, clinical examination, not really a lot of science in the examination itself, right? No real biomarkers. And the same exact situation it prevails in neurology. So these terrible diseases like multiple sclerosis and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and ALS and a bunch of others, there are no blood tests, or no telling blood tests. MRIs are helpful, but definitely not unequivocal. So really, it's really the intuition and the clinical assessment of a neurologist. Usually they will ask you like 50 different questions, specifically 50 for Parkinson's, the scale called the UPDRS. And then you get a certain score, and that's how much Parkinson's you have, right? So it's pretty insane that we live in the 21st century, and this is still how we assess neurological patients. And the idea was that they're actually quite telling biomarkers, but they're hard to extract, and they're hard to model. And we came forth with a technology that uses these micro movements of the eye, micro measurements of the eye, using standard video, standard webcam, standard mobile phone, to measure these micro measurements of the eye that give a real signature of the eye. So you can actually tell the difference between somebody that suffers from Parkinson and healthy, or MS and healthy. Not only can you tell the difference, but you can actually give a very accurate estimate of the progression of the disease through the eyes. So there's a saying, the eye is the window to the brain or the mind. that's actually really, really true, right? You can really glean and see the state of somebody's disease through monitoring these micro movements of the eye. This is a fact that has been known for quite some time for neurologists, except they, it's usually much later in the disease when it's bedside examination and it's not really precise. So taking this and quantifying it and using objective measures for it is really a breakthrough that we're championing. The company itself has been around for a little less than a year and a half. We've raised a little over $30 million to date. Amazing team back in Israel. Most of the R&D is in Israel. All of the R&D is in Israel. Then about 4 or 5 people in the US as well. So it's me and my amazing co-founder Eddie. He's a mathematician. And about 9 months ago, we had the person who was first employee and CTO at Flatiron. He joined first as an investor and then as an advisor, and about 9 months decided to join as a scientific co-founder and put his time where his money already was. And it was an amazing addition to the team, really all the expertise and experience. And we were also lucky enough to bring in as chief innovation officer the woman who had managed the entire innovative R&D for Teva, which was a renowned neuro pharma company. It led all of its R&D in its heyday, doing both bringing both Copaxone, the MS drug, and Nasilac, the PD drug, to market. So really, a huge luminary, managed 700 strong team back in the day. So building up this terrifically amazing executive team and pushing forth. So, we've just announced our first commercial partnership with an ALS company. And, looking at the data, it looks extremely compelling. I could go on and on and on. So,
wow, okay. Micha, this sounds like this is incredible. First of all, I had no idea that the way that they figure out if you have a disease is just by taking, like, what did you say? It's just like they ask questions. Is that really what it is?
Yeah. It's questions. Again, if you go, I don't know if you've ever been but surely some of your acquaintances or friends have been a psychiatrist or psychologist. They ask you a bunch of questions to try to assess your well-being, right? Your psychological or psychiatric health. The same goes for neurology, right? It's not so surprising when you think of it. They're both the brain. There's not, it's the best we know. The difference really between psychiatry and neurology is usually neurology has a physiological and discernible artifact in the brain that can be seen to be affected, right? Some lesion and so on and so forth. But it's the distance between that and actual accurate, precise diagnosis and monitoring and assessment of progression is very, very far. And really, there's no unequivocal, accurate way of diagnosing or of monitoring these diseases. So, for example, in a Parkinson's trial, a drug trial, Parkinson's, if you have 1,000 patients undergoing the trial, it turns out that about 250 will not suffer from Parkinson's, but rather a similar disease that has a very different pathophysiology, very different etiology, but looks similar at the beginning. So, it could be, PSP or MSA or essential tremor, but not Parkinson's. So it's just really hard to tell these apart early on, right? The type of tremor, the size of the tremor, and so on and so forth. So being able to separate these diseases is yeah.
So if you're saying the technology isn't really there for just to assess the disease, see if you actually have this disease, see the progression of it, the technology wasn't there or isn't there, and that's why that's why NeuraLight is around.
Well, it's not about really the technology. It's about the profession of medicine, neurology, and where it is, what the state of the art, what the standard of care is today. The tools that neurologists use are clinical assessments, so questionnaires, right? And they use what's called DD, differential diagnosis, kind of, they give a person this kind of drug. If they react, then it's Parkinson's. If they don't, they continue on to check if it's a different drug react. So it's very, very, very difficult to diagnose diseases of the brain, of the central nervous system, right? Spine and spinal cord and brain. And medicine, neurology itself as a profession is behind other areas of medicine, right? You can't imagine that assessing cancer, God forbid, would be so fraught and with imprecision. But this is the state of art or the state of care for neurology. And what we're doing is introducing a novel technology to extract these biomarkers in order to transform neurology.
Wow. Now you can't see the disease like in like an X-ray or a CAT scan. It doesn't come up.
Well, it depends what disease, and it depends at what stage. So, for example, in MS, you definitely do see lesions in the brain in MRI, but it doesn't necessarily unequivocally mean that you have MS. That's number one. And number two, there is not a direct correlation between the volume of lesions, the number of lesions, the occurrence of lesions, and the progression of the symptoms of the disease. So even if you're able to, so different diseases suffer from different issues in terms of care. Parkinson's is extremely, extremely hard to diagnose. And in fact, no, MRI does not pick up, well, at least early stages of Parkinson's at all. The only way to unequivocally say that somebody has Parkinson's is in a postmortem autopsy. It's that crazy. Looking at the specific area, the specific tissue of the brain that was affected, and only under microscope can you tell that. So that's kind of for diseases like Parkinson's. Multiple sclerosis is different. It's relatively easy to diagnose. It's extremely hard to monitor the progression. 2 years can pass between a level 4 and level 5 MS evaluation without people knowing that the disease has actually progressed terribly. And there's no real way of this, MRI does not help there. And then there's other diseases that suffer from, multiple, combinations of this, like Alzheimer, dementia. It's a little about diagnosis, a little about progression, very slowly. But yeah, for Alzheimer, I mean, of course, you can see in an MRI ultimately that there is Alzheimer. You see with the different proteins in the plaque, right? The amyloid. But that's not how you assess how the progression looks like, and so on and so forth.
So tell me, so you said who is the founder? Eddie?
Myself and Eddie are the co-founders, and Gil joined as a scientific co-founder. Yeah.
Gotcha. So you guys created, or have you created yet, or you're in the middle of creating this technology where you can assess what disease someone has, the progression of the disease, we're told, based on their eye, like taking a reading of their eye. How does that work?
What
is it? Is it a piece? Like what do you use?
Standard video, standard cameras. So like we're doing now over Zoom, even with glasses on. Later on, we'll also be implementing it on a mobile phone. So that's how we do it. We sit somebody in front of a screen for 10 minutes or 5 minutes, depending on the trial itself, and ask them to follow a dot across the screen. And the accuracy, how they're able to, the delay, the way their pupil moves, that's all giving a very, very strong indication of the disease itself. I'll say more so, I mean, look, as an example, two diseases that look very, very similar clinically. So progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP, is extremely similar in the way it looks to Parkinson's early on. But in PSP, you're going to be seeing a very specific type of movement. So you're going to be seeing a hypermetric saccadic movement, namely people are not going to be able to move their eyes all the way to a target. They'll misevaluate it. They'll go a little less far than the target is. That's because the area of the brain that's responsible for calculating eye movements is hurt in PSP, the supranucleus. In Parkinson's, it's not. You'll also see a problem in vertical gaze, but not in horizontal gaze. So clinically, these people will fall down stairs. That's how sometimes you know they have PSP and not Parkinson's, because they just can't avert their eyes down. And the more the disease has progressed, the more pronounced these symptoms are. So we're able to tell those apart. So those are examples, kind of. And then other diseases will show different types of signatures. So, if you want to think about it in an intuitive way, the way to do it is, so back in the 60s of the previous century, Professor Don Kahneman, a Nobel laureate, showed that there's a strong indication or strong correlation between cognitive load and micro movements of the eye. So, a way to think about it, as if you've ever seen professional poker being played, you'll see that the professional players cover their eyes with shades so as not to give away any tells. Turns out, people, when they're excited, their pupils dilate, but also when they're calculating or when they're focusing. And when you have dementias and Alzheimer's, you're going to be trying to focus and calculate at a much harder, you'll exert much more energy there, and eyes will be moving very differently. So that's kind of an intuitive way to see how Alzheimer's has progressed. Of course, these are not pronounced enough to see with a naked eye, at least until very late in the disease. So what we do is use these standard videos, and then we use a novel way of extracting microoculometric movements using blind deconvolutions, basically, and we're able to basically increase the precision of the pixels. Get a super resolution pixelization or super resolution of what's happening on the screen, and then be able to discern and extract these really high precision parameters.
Wow. Okay. Well, you just gave a lot of information, Micha, and I do understand some of it, not all of it. But what I get is that you created, you and Eddie, I don't know who created or how long it took, but you created a way of analyzing people's eyes to see what disease they have based on a lot of factors.
Yeah, so Eddie was working on this for about at least a year before we met.
Gotcha.
And he put together a prototype. When we had first met, he kind of asked me, I asked him, so Eddie, but does this work? And he said, well, let me show you. And I said, sure. He asked me to pick a number from 1 to 10, and I did. And then he said, only after the number that you chose, you're going to perform a mathematical calculation. Then he would read to me the numbers randomly, and I would perform the calculation after my number, and I would send him the recording of the video. And after, he'd say, this is the number you chose. And It was pretty cool. So I told him, look, if we don't form a multi-billion-dollar company, at least we'll have a show in Vegas.
So you're starting the company. I mean, the company started. Now, this technology should be used. You want it to be used in every neurology, I guess, office everywhere in the world, right? Is it expensive? Yeah. How would it work? Is it just you have a video camera?
So ultimately, you're absolutely right. That is a few years out. To begin with, what we need to do is, before we're able to give this to caregivers themselves, we need to have FDA approval and so on and so forth. Yeah. At the very start, what we're doing is we're selling this platform as is to pharma companies so that they can use it to improve their design of their studies. You don't need FDA approval to be able to use this to design better studies. So good. Helping them increase success rates. And as we gather more and more data and more proof that this actually works, at least as good, probably much, much better, not as good, actually significantly better and more precisely and more telling and more sensitive than existing clinical evaluations, then we end up submitting to FDA, and then we allow any neurologist to use it. And ultimately, we believe we will be introducing this new era of precision medicine where you go into a neurologist's office and you can look into a video camera or over Zoom or even on your own smartphone while you're talking, be able to assess the health of your neurological state.
So you're saying you envision using it for any person to see just where they're holding, like hopefully they don't have a disease, but it can also just give a reading on like how I don't know what else can it give a reading on if it doesn't detect a disease, like a specific disease, just like can it give you a reading on like how healthy you are, like what?
No, well, maybe, but that's not what we're looking at now. We're looking explicitly or exclusively, we're looking at neurology and to some degree also psychiatry, although the data out there is less less compelling. It's more noisy. But no, we're neurology and we're focusing for now on 4 indications. So ALS, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's, Parkinsonisms, and then Alzheimer and dementias.
That's wow. So this is something that's the fact that they don't have something like, I mean, this is a very amazing technology, but the fact that they don't have anything even similar to detect diseases doesn't sound too good for. I'm saying we're in the 21st century. I mean, these things we should be on top of these diseases right when they happen. And apparently it doesn't seem like it. And it makes sense. You know, people always at the end do they try to fix you, not at the beginning.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Look, neurology is way back. There are no cures for most of the neurological disorders, like no cures, Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, ALS, there are no cures. There are many symptomatic treatments, sometimes even disease modifying treatments to some degree, for example, in MS, but usually very few, no cures mostly, and we're just not there yet. So I believe that once cancer is quote unquote taken care of, this will be the focus with aging population. You know, these are slow killers, and probably that's why there's been much less science directed at them. That and the fact that it's so difficult to actually research the brain and see the brain, and that these diseases are so not well understood. So those are kind of factors that come into play and have basically created a situation where we don't really understand how to deal with these diseases or even measure them, right? And you know, you can't really improve or you can't develop cures for things that you don't measure, and we're basically measuring neurological disorders.
Wow. Now, okay, so I understand what you guys do. Just tell me about the company a little bit. So how many employees are there? Do you have a lot of R&D? I'm assuming that's most of it.
Yeah.
How many people are doing R&D back in Israel?
Yeah, so about 28 R&D people in Israel. All of them like are top of the top of the top of the top, all ex 49. It's a subdivision of 8,200, like top of the top mathematicians, PhDs, amazing researchers, amazing developers out of Google, Microsoft. Kind of the joke is that I think we have like 5 ex-Googlers. So the joke is we're not allowed on campus there, but some really incredible people. On the, I mentioned before, we have Eddie, the mathematician, and Guy, who was CTO of Flatiron, a company that sold for $2 billion, and Rivka, who was previously global innovator of R&D for Teva, managed a 700-person team. And then we have, our scientific advisory board includes 2 Nobel laureates and the head of MS at Mount Sinai and the head of the Secretary General of the World Association for Movement Disorders and Parkinson. So pretty amazing human beings on board with us, helping us kind of push forward. It's an incredible ride thus far. I've never heard of a company with such an amazing team. This is the dream team. You guys are going to revolutionize everything in regards to neurology. There's no way. I mean, first of all, this technology itself is revolutionary, because just to have something like this going from the mediocre way of assessing to this is already light years ahead. And now with the team you guys have, this is going to help so many people. This is amazing. Yeah, that's what gets us up in the morning and
Yeah.
makes us really proud and passionate, and we really feel we're on an urgent mission.
Wow, this is a worldwide issue. There's billions of people in the world, and a lot of people have diseases that need to be taken care of. So now what stage are you with in the company? Like the company's, you're still in the growth, not even the growth stage. You guys are research stage, right? Or what
No,
do you think?
we're selling. We're
Oh yeah,
selling.
oh,
We're
because you're going
early.
to, yeah.
We're early. First commercial trials. Some are initiated by ourselves. Some are sponsored by the NIH, et cetera, et cetera. But first commercial contract in place.
Amazing.
So we're definitely not only research, we're also touching the market. And the idea is to grow more rapidly and touch the market even more rapidly very soon.
And the thing is, I don't see you guys ever stopping. You're just going to keep improving it forever as the because it can always be better. You're going to improve it. You're going to try to get as many diseases as possible that you can detect. You're going to make it better and better and better. You say you're going to do it on a smartphone, so people, that's insane. Like,
Yeah,
you're going to be able to detect. You won't even have to go to the doctor. Maybe someone who's sick and can't leave their house, you can monitor them through their phone.
100 million% for sure.
Wow, this is mind blowing. I'm hearing right now this is like the cutting edge of everything right now in regards to all these diseases. I'm hearing it right now from you.
Thank you.
I get to speak to you now. In a few years, I'm not even able to speak to you. You're gonna be so busy. You're gonna be all over the world, helping people, which you're doing right now. But this is not gonna stop, especially with the team. How did you get all the people? How did all these people get on the team? They just, maybe they see the vision. What do you
I
think?
think it's the vision, and look, Eddie is an amazing co-founder. We were able to assemble some incredible people early on, truly incredible. So, I read recently a quote by some CEO. They asked him how they assemble a great team, and he answered, "Well, we look for people that smile." So I like that answer. I'll adopt it to myself.
That's very true. You want people that are happy. You want people that enjoy what they do. You want people
Yeah.
that want to be there.
Yeah, 100%. That's one of our values, actually. We have 3 values for the company. First is we're in an urgent mission. Basically, do not expect work-life balance. You can expect
You're just
work-life
working.
harmony. Yeah, no, work-life harmony is great. We believe in enjoying life and having a good and full life, but not really separating work from life, right? These aren't 2 distinct parts of life for us. We are looking for people that bring this back home, are proud of it, celebrate it. The flip side, or to balance that out, our third value is to enjoy the ride. So we're definitely looking for good people that are fun and in a deep sense. And then the second value is psychological safety. It's very important for us to allow everybody to make sure that they're not dismissed and that they're empowered and celebrated. Yeah.
Yes. What's the first one?
The first is we're in an urgent mission.
Urgent. Okay. Urgent. No one gets
urgent, enjoy the ride, and psychological safety.
That's amazing. That's how it should be. You need people that are dedicated. You need people that are happy to be there. You want people that are with you everywhere you go, because that's how you're going to get it done. And you guys are getting it done. Well,
thank you.
I knew I was speaking to a special company, but I didn't know I'm speaking to like the future of making.
Amen to that. Amen to that.
Now, in your vision, in your eyes, what do you see the company, like, where do you see the company in, let's say, the next 5-10 years? Like, in the best case scenario? Obviously, there's no way to know. It's very hard to tell, and you guys are working very, very, very hard. But what do you think?
Look, I founded this company to, as the cliche goes, to build a multi-billion-dollar company. I have high conviction that we can get there and that we will get there. The goal is to build a company that's worth billions and billions and billions of dollars, not for, not as also for the economical driver, but really in order to drive any true impact on the world. That's what you need to do.
You need to
that's
be
really
massive. You need people to like open it. The door needs to be open wherever you go, and that happens when you're like a $1 billion company or multi-billion-dollar company. Doors open everywhere.
Yeah, 100%. So that's part of it, but mostly, really, it's about the patients.
Yeah.
and the science and being able to bring hope to patients.
Yeah.
We hope to be heralding in a new era of neurology where patients actually have cures and they're precision tailored, and we can transform lives. So at the end of the day, the vision of the company is to transform the lives of hundreds of millions, if not billions, of people that suffer from neurological disorders.
Wow, it's a tall order, and you know what? Taking on a mission like that, it's obviously, I mean, it's real, and it's probably very difficult at times, but people have to do it, or else, if we all sit around and don't do it, who's going to do it? So the fact that you, Eddie, whoever else on the team is there working every day and night doing this it's amazing. No, I'm really, it's amazing. It's very impressive. And just know that you have people like me and everyone else who listens that really we respect it and look up to something like that. It's very important.
Thank you so much, Joe. That means a lot. Thank you. I appreciate it.
So listen, I cannot wait. It was amazing listening to what you tell me about the company, tell me about what you guys do. And I can't wait I'm going to speak to you, let's say in a year or two. I want to hear, I know the company is going to transform. It's going to go many places. It's going to transform. It's going to get bigger. But you guys are also going to change with technology. You're going to get more innovative. You're already extremely innovative, but I see you guys always going to grow. So I'm very excited to watch NeuraLight, to see where it goes. And just to, I want to be, I'm a supporter. I'm here. We're rooting for you guys.
Thank you so much, Joe. That means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on.